Are you ready to listen to my dad Joe and Uncle Justin talk about sports? Now on with the show.
The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop, which have been serving the greater West Lawn area delicious food for over 70 years. You are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show.
Boring.
A weekly podcast about sports since 2011.
Don't you ever get tired of being wrong all the time?
With a focus on football.
Second and goal. Pass. Got it. Touchdown. This guy has had some year.
Al, I've got to tell you, in a pressure situation, I don't know if I have ever seen anybody be better than Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. Wow, what a drive.
4th and 1. Burrow trying to keep it going, gets spun down, gets it away, and incomplete. The Rams now running down to celebrate with a defensive play.
And guess who?
Of course.
I mean, you don't even have to think about it.
Pointing to the ring finger.
When everything was on the line for the Rams, yes, we know it was Aaron Donald.
But the Rams were built to win the Super Bowl, and they have sealed the deal.
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting next to me is my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's great to be here. What a postseason we had! But it's good to be back, and lots to talk about in the sports world. Kind of all over the place, but lots to talk about. So.
Yeah, lots to talk about, and what we're gonna do is talk about the next NFL season instead of any of that other stuff. We might touch on some things here and there, but I mean, anyone that's listening or watching live or after the fact knows that this is predominantly a pro football show by and large. We will probably take a few detours over the next few months, but the NFL gets our attention, and we're only a week away from the Super Bowl, and we need to recap that. And, take an early look at next season. But like Justin said, a lot of other stuff was going on, both in professional sports here in the United States and also abroad, featuring our Olympic athletes, which since we last did the show, the Olympics have come and gone, completely started and ended.
We're watching last night. Jimmy and I were working on kind of organizing some of the kid chaos that, just kind of expands and fills the house. You know how that goes?
Oh, yeah, I know.
We have the Olympics on, and they mentioned something like, and the last event of these Olympics. I'm like, wait, what? And then I thought, I'm like, well, they have been going on for a couple weeks, but it just seemed to fly by.
Yeah, I mean, I watched, Kelly and I watched a lot. I like winter more than she does. She's more of a summer Olympics person, so we both got it in the last year,
right?
Getting
Which
to watch
is awesome.
Both. It's
crazy
not a common
to think
occurrence.
back, that's how it used to be.
Right. I think it changed in 92 or 94. There was something that things changed, but United States I think did pretty typical. Finishing around the top 5, maybe pushing
it's crazy
top
how
3.
Norway is insane.
So
it's not
good.
surprising, but just the sheer total,
right?
I looked. I think Norway has a population of 5.3 million.
It's smaller than
insane.
our city. Some of our
right. It reminds me of this thing that I saw just the other night. That's it was this documentary thing on L.A. and it just said L.A. County. Now counties in California are different than they are in Pennsylvania. They're much bigger to begin with, but L.A. County has more people than 43 of the 50 states in the U.S. But you look at L.A. has more people than Norway,
right? By
a lot. It's not close. Now, not saying there's a lot of winter Olympic training going on in Southern California, but it's crazy. You see some of these countries, do really well and traditionally do really well. It's not like Norway's coming out of nowhere to dominate the Winter Olympics.
No, they're routinely there at the top.
Right.
Germany, usually very good
Yeah.
showing. United States, and we've seen China and whatever Russia has to be competing as because they can't get out of their own
Which
way.
is a whole thing.
Yeah, always is. But we talked a little bit about the hockey at the Olympics 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Because technically the opening ceremonies were the Friday before the Pro Bowl weekend in the NFL. So we had a show that weekend. And I got really angry about the timing of the hockey games, and I still feel was completely warranted. And I sent you a tweet, and it has come out since then, that the gold medal game in the women's tournament, which, surprise, surprise, was the United States versus Canada. Like, no one saw that coming. It started at 11:10 Eastern time. It drew 3.4 million viewers.
Which is an insane number for an 11 o'clock
It was
start.
the most watched hockey game in 3 years, or nearly 3 years, and that includes all American broadcasts of NHL games, including the Stanley Cup playoffs and finals.
It doesn't really surprise it. So I'd have to think back through what some of the Stanley Cup matchups were. If the Capitals fall into that range, that may surprise me a little bit, but I guess not completely. But it doesn't surprise me that it put up a huge number. I was happy to see that it put up such a big number, which was awesome. And to the point you raised, like, that was
The
an
East Coast was
11
asleep.
start. Right.
And not just the East Coast of the United States. I mean, we talked about
Right.
the majority of the Canadian population.
Yeah.
The biggest cities are in Eastern or Central, I believe.
Right, yeah.
So that's either 11:10 or 10:10,
Right.
Eastern or Central time.
Yeah, it's
It
crazy.
just seems like a mistake. You start that 2 hours earlier, that number's bigger.
Yeah, it's
that-
probably a third to 50% bigger.
I could see that topping 5 million.
yeah.
Which is kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, and a close like competitive game, and you start to draw in those numbers at the end. Like, I doubt the numbers climbed late in that game like
Right.
you normally see for some of them, because no one's like, well, I shouldn't say no one, but I would imagine the trend does not support many people flipping around at like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning,
Right.
East Coast time, and being like, oh, hey, what competitive games are on right now?
Right,
Like,
because
no,
it's generally,
like,
unless you're
the-
watching West
right.
Coast basketball or
the
football
people that
games.
wanted to be watching were already watching by
Right.
1 in the morning. Is what I'm.
No, you're right there for sure. So it's disappointing that the timing worked out that way. I watched every single women's and men's American hockey game that started at 8:10 in the morning.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I got to watch, I think, 4 women's games and only 1 men's game because
yeah.
they did really well in the leading up to the
lights
playoffs.
out.
And then they played at 11:10 at night against
Right.
Slovakia, and they lost in a shootout. And
Yeah.
they had to win just that one game to get to the medal round.
Right.
And they couldn't do it,
Right.
which is disappointing. I mean, they had a great showing initially,
Right. They were playing really well.
but they lost the game that really mattered. I mean, they beat Canada in the round robin, which was
Yeah.
excellent, but Canada didn't medal either. They
No.
lost the few hours after the US did.
Yeah.
So congratulations to Finland for winning their first gold
Well,
medal in
I'm
men's
glad.
hockey.
I'm glad Finland won.
Yeah.
Because they were playing essentially Russia, and
ROC.
yeah, which
So yeah, well,
that
that's
really irks me. But
growing up. I always thought that the Iceland hockey team would pose more of a direct threat
I was led to believe.
towards gold
I
medal.
was led to believe that was
against
a much
an
bigger
American
issue.
opponent, but I don't know. Apparently, that's not the case. So maybe Gordon Bombay switched to Finland and changed his allegiance. But yeah, so the Olympics were fun. It's always a nice thing to have on during the day, whether it's at work at the shop, we would just throw whatever on, or like the hockey when it was live at 8 a.m. That was great. I mean, been at work for a few hours and I can turn on and watch Olympic hockey. That's amazing. And even like on the weekends, just turn on one of the channels that there's like 4 channels that had either live stuff or replays on almost 24/7. You could just have it on. You could be there doing whatever. We could be playing a card game with the girls and just have some skiing is happening in the background. So I really do, and I love the Olympics. So
I feel like
disappointing that we have to wait 2
I
years
feel like,
now.
and I've seen this going around. Like, I'm not saying this is my original thought, but I've felt this way for a long time. They should definitely throw out like normal people into the events. I'm not
Just to
saying
give
like
you
in
a
the finals or
comparison.
anything, but just like to have it out there to show you like, oh, a typical person does this. So like, this is only related at the most extreme levels, but like I think about like when I was coaching in the aquatic realm, like one of the things I learned when I was doing like lifeguard certification and stuff, and then it actually came up again this year, but the Red Cross says more than 50% of Americans cannot swim 25 yards and get out of the pool if there aren't like steps.
Oh, that's sad.
And and so they talk about this in terms of like being able to swim as like a life skill. But like I think about that, like think about those swimmers.
Now
like,
I'm sitting here and doubting, can I do that?
So you think about the swimmers, right, who are like swimming like really fast, but they're all really fast. So you're like, oh, okay. But like if you threw an average person out there, they might not be able to make it the length of the 50-yard or 50-meter pool. So like just things like that, or you put someone out there with the 100-meter dash, like they wouldn't be halfway.
No,
the average person wouldn't be halfway when they're finishing. And I know there's people who are like, well, I could. No, you can't.
No, don't.
No, you
I
can't.
don't want to hear it.
And like that applies to the things where you think like, oh, like I like watching the curling. I
love curling. Yeah.
And I think some of the appeal is, it's like, oh, we could do that.
We could learn to do that.
And we could learn. I would not be an Olympian. I don't know how good I would be at curling, but I'm just going to go out on a limb and guess that I wouldn't be among the best handful of Americans at curling, just because the sheer numbers of it aren't very likely. But like, you see something like that, you're like, oh, I could do that. No, I couldn't. No, I couldn't. I could.
You might be able to do that. Can you do it at that level?
Right. No, absolutely not. Right. Now, the things I look at, like, I'm like, the speed skating stuff. First of all, I wouldn't be able to, like, not break my ankle. And if I did break my ankle, then, like, that sharp blade on the bottom of my foot, like, might start slicing everyone. Like, that might not work. Or, like, imagine sending someone off the ski jump. But, like...
Oh, yeah, no, that's a...
Right. But, like, or, like, when they show the pictures of, like, the bobsled, like, turns, and they show the people standing at the bottom, and it's, like, basically 90 degrees. Like... Or, I guess, parallel to them, not 90 degrees. Like, it's just insane. I think it kind of gets lost because they're all so good at what they do. But it is really just absolutely amazing to see the athletes and kind of what they go through and what they're trying to achieve. And the smallest little details make the difference at that level. So
yeah, absolutely. It's always fun experience to watch the athletes compete, and obviously we're, at least in this house, we're always cheering on the American athletes, and we always are wondering where they are. But it is entertaining to watch the best of the best, especially in like the crazy stuff on skis and snowboards, like the speed or the elements. It's like kind of watching the skateboard stuff in the summer,
right?
Of like flipping and like
just the stuff they're doing. You're like,
I just sit there.
Well, and like I start thinking through. I'm like, how do you learn to do that? Like, and I know how. You start probably when you're young, and you just do it over and over and over again. But you think about how many times has that person fallen hard? Or like.
Yeah. So that fourth wall was broken for me for gymnastics recently because Haley is in gymnastics now, and their basic rudimentary introduction stuff to the equipment, and a lot of it is just glorified obstacle courses, but it's learning tumbling and catching and just being comfortable with these are the things you're going to be on if you continue this, if you pursue it into the future. She's having a blast. She loves it, which awesome. Kelly and I are super thrilled that she found something that she's having so much fun with. But next to the area that the young kids are, the older kids, probably, I don't know, I want to say like right around early teenage years, like they're probably like 12 to 14-ish, guessing. But they're practicing, before we get there and after we leave, like they're there for hours every night, I assume. But I'm seeing the coach like walk them through certain aspects that I was like, oh, that's how they get comfortable with that. That's it. They'll put like they're running down and doing jumps and flips, but he'll catch them, at like the hip
Right,
and guide
right,
them to
right.
land them properly. And then, they'll proceed and they'll do that just with the pad and not him. And then eventually they'll get rid of everything. It's just the floor. It's very interesting to see they do the same thing with the bars and the beam. Like there's introductory, then there's like coach assisted, then there's padding assisted, and then you're there. And then that's just, very basic that I've just seen over the last 2 months of Kelly or me taking Haley there. But it was interesting because I always thought, I was like, how do you learn to do those things? Right. I mean, it makes complete sense because you think about any sport that you play,
right.
That's always kind of the lead up. It's all taking the training wheels off, slowly, ramping up the intensity. But actually getting to see that happen with gymnastics now.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So I think about the same thing watching the skiers and the snowboarders do the half pipe stuff.
Yeah.
Or that like slope style where they're like flying down a course and just doing ridiculous stuff.
Right.
Yeah, it's so very entertaining.
I just think about the times I've gone skiing and you hit like something and like part of the skis might be off the ground and you're like, oh my gosh,
I just every time they would go up the side of that half pipe, I would just be like, they're gonna crash. They're gonna hit the side and crash. And more often than not, they didn't, and I was happy for them. But yeah, so that was fun. It's probably over now. I think the closing ceremonies are happening as we speak, at least the tape delayed version. But yeah, congratulations to the athletes and everyone that competed, and I'm sure we'll be hearing about doping stuff for years, because I think we just heard, what was it, the Great Britain, the British team from one of the events in the summer. I think, was it at Rio? Was it, or was it no? Because I think it was dated. It was back. Like they just got like their silver medal stripped or something like that for a doping thing. That was like 6 years ago.
Right.
Oh, it's a mess. We could have an entire show about governing bodies in the Olympics and the national committees and the international community. And but that's not what we're here for. We're here to talk football. A few other things happening though. Congratulations to the Penn State wrestling team, undefeated in dual season.
Yeah. With a shutout today.
Beat up on, was it Ryder?
Ryder, yeah.
So
it was interesting. So 2 weeks ago they had the duel in the BJC.
Ohio State?
Yeah, and they whooped them really good. They won 8 bouts to 2, I think, or maybe 7 to 3, but I think 8 to 2. They really whooped them. And they were down a couple guys, so that was really incredible. But they said, like, Kale has really worked his schedules like this, where their only duel between then and Big Tens was today. They don't, they really have a chance. But you know what? Like a couple weeks ago, Carter Sorochi was hurt. Well, he wrestled today. Brady Berge had dropped down to 157.
He's in a new weight class.
So, which is going to be interesting for seeding, but could really be interesting for Penn State. That could really be a boost to already the number one team.
When does Big Ten tournament start?
I think the Big Ten tournament.
So next weekend?
No, I don't think it's next weekend. I think it's the weekend after. That. Yeah.
And where is it this year?
I don't know.
I didn't look that up yet.
I know NCAAs are in Detroit this year.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's all happening over the next month.
Yeah.
We got the Big Ten tournament and then the national tournament.
Usually the NCAAs are the opening weekend of March Madness.
Right, yeah. Oh, man. March is always a fun month. I'm always excited to get out of February. That January-February time period.
It's crazy. I know it rolls into the following week, but this is the last full week of February coming up.
Yeah. I growing up, I think we had this conversation whether it was on air or off. Growing up, loved the winter and the snow and whatnot. But as a grown up, a homeowner, a parent, you understand your parents' feeling towards snow real fast.
Right.
I always want, and Kelly's been saying the whole winter, I want one good snow for the kids to enjoy. But then it like after that, it can do nothing. We haven't gotten that yet.
Right. Well, it was
at least here.
I hope that. Yeah, I kind of hope that's how it goes. I know I feel bad for my kids a little bit, but I don't know that I feel bad enough.
I took the girls and met my sister and Logan at Brenneman Park the one day to go sledding because we were like, hey, this might not happen.
I remember when you did it, I'm like, oh, come on, we'll absolutely get more, but you never know.
We haven't really. And the girls did go out the other day where we got that, was it last weekend where we got like
Yeah.
a lot of snow on grass, but
Yes,
all the
yes.
cement, there was nothing.
Yeah.
But they quick built like a little snowman, so they
Right.
got that
Hey.
done, and good for them. But January and
Yeah.
February are just it's just so tough with the weather, and it's post holidays, and if it wasn't for family birthdays and NFL playoffs and Super Bowl, January and February would just be like, nope, I'm just out, done. Just have never been great months. So I'm always excited when the calendar flips to March, and then you get the March Madness, and usually we're looking forward to baseball.
Right. Yeah.
Who knows if that'll happen? I don't know.
Speaking on, oh my gosh.
I'm pretty sure we discussed this, and again, Justin and I are just recording a conversation right
That we
now.
already
We're
have.
not doing this for the show. I mean, we thought people maybe would like to listen to our normal conversation. So we say stuff all the time. I don't even remember if it was on the show,
I
if it
know.
was in our text thread or what. But it came up at the shop the other day. I believe it was my Uncle Dennis was there, and it ended up talking about leading to baseball. I think it was him. And I said, how bad were the Phillies last year when they weren't like that bad?
No,
But think
right.
about, you had the NL MVP and the NL Cy Young runner-up on your team.
Should have won the Cy Young.
Right. And they were essentially 500, right?
Yeah.
They were right in that.
Yep.
Like I after they fell apart at the end of the year, like they have so many times over the last 5 years, it's so frustrating. But then we all got on board of Bryce gets the MVP. That's what we
Right,
want to see.
right.
Bryce is the MVP, and he is. Wheeler was a runner-up for the Cy Young. But think of like a team with the best positional batter in the National League and arguably the best pitcher for that season in the National League. You don't even make the playoffs.
Right.
I feel like that's hard to do without going back and looking at the history of
Right.
NL MVP and or any NL AL. It doesn't matter. To have someone finish first and second are the two biggest rewards and have the team not sniff the
No,
playoffs. Maybe it
not a
happens more
chance.
often.
Yeah, but not very often.
I feel like it can't. So that's incredibly disappointing. But it was a down year from Nola and so many of the other positional guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just couldn't overcome it. So
I do like that they kind of shifted gears and have some retooling in the farm system, which is much needed. So
I saw The Athletic had an article
yeah.
about was it batting development? Is that what it was?
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get to read it yet, so I want to get on
so
that.
yeah, they're basically retooling essentially
How they
the
do
whole-
everything from the ground up.
Yeah, which is good because
It hasn't worked for a decade now.
Right.
Well, we're literally celebrating a decade since I went to spring training, and that was the spring after the
Spring
last
training-
good Phillies
spring
team.
training is so awesome.
Clearwater.
Spring training's
What at the time was Bright House Field. I don't
Yeah.
think it is anymore.
No, it's something else.
But I went to spring training in March 2012, and that was the kickoff of this decade long of mediocre or terrible Phillies teams.
Right.
Because we were coming off that great. I mean, I even go all the way back to like, what was it, 05, 06, where they were.
Yeah.
You could see them getting better, and actually that started way back in like 04, I think.
Right, it's like when they moved over and Jimmy Rollins got called up. Like Jimmy Rollins played his first games as a professional the end of the last year in the vet. I think it was his first games, but like his first meaningful time. And then he was up when they started.
I mean, this is back when Larry
at
Bow
Citizens
was the
Bank Park,
coach, I believe.
right? And then they're like, "Let's
Right.
go."
Yes,
and
CBP
started
opened
building.
in 04.
right.
Things
And
got
then
better in 05. They missed out in 06.
In
Yeah.
06, they traded Bobby Abreu.
Yeah.
And
We all thought, we're
and,
like,
and,
we're done.
And Gillick, who I went on to love, but Gillick's like, well, what do you expect? We're not going to compete anytime soon. You can imagine how well that went over in Philly. Needless to say, it all came
worked out.
together. The next year, they're building with all those homegrown pieces too. But they hit on some of the Rule 5 guys like Jason Worth and Shane
Victorino.
Victorino. And then, yeah, you start filling in. And
You essentially created Carlos Ruiz, Ryan Howard, Chase Utley,
Jimmy
Rollins,
Rollins.
and then you were adding in Cole Hamels.
Right.
You were adding in pieces like eventually Brad Lidge, Pedro Feliz. Pat Burrell was a homegrown guy, and they're just adding pieces here and there. And when the first got started, Aaron Rowand was the center fielder, and he's a guy that'll always be loved in Philadelphia. but that's where it all started, and
It'll be fun.
A
It'll
great
be fun
5 year.
to like get rolling in that direction again.
That 6-year season from 06 through 2011 was crazy, and we got the peak in 2008 will never be forgotten. But it is tough now to think like we are painfully close to being the same distance from 08 as we were from 08 to 93. Like 93 was now I know everyone 80 was the World Series championship, but like in our terms, because we were like first time early Philly fans with that 93 team, and then we had to wait to see them be good for 14 years to make the playoffs, 15 to win the World Series. And guess what? Well, this is the 14th year post
15 years and a work stoppage in between. Hey, next year's our year. I'm up for it.
So I don't. But who knows if baseball even get out of their own way to get back on the field?
It's frustrating because I'm like, if there's a sport that
can't
get out of their own way, like finds way, like if there's a sport that is out of their way but would find a way to trip up over something, it's baseball. It's baseball. And there's plenty of blame to go around in lots of different ways. But I have zero confidence in Rob Manfred just from multiple things. It was the mic. At least it wasn't the cards yet.
Yeah.
But like Rob Manfred has really not shown me anything that makes me think like, oh, he's the guy you need in leadership roles to make this happen.
Yeah.
Like I can and this is usually more in the text thing, but like I can disagree with things that Goodell does a lot, but like I understand what he's doing, and he's going to make it work because he and the NFL are very good at making it work. I look at baseball and I'm like, Rob Manfred is maybe the guy who makes this more difficult than it has to be, and I say that about almost every decision that they seem to make. He seems to make it more difficult than it has to be, and that's not what you need when you need a guy who's bringing both sides, quote unquote, together to keep things moving. Now I know they're scheduled to talk, I think, daily this week. So, it's about time. But I feel like, man, they really missed out on an opportunity. And I understand that like there's no real sense of urgency until there is a sense of urgency. But like you look at what an opportunity they missed to not like either in that week leading up to the Super Bowl or like not the Monday, but like the Tuesday after the Super Bowl, be like, we've got a deal. Pitchers and catchers are reporting tomorrow. And like, you know what I mean? Like you let the Super Bowl have its moment, and then the big news thing becomes baseball's back and everybody's excited. You basically jumpstart your spring training talk. It gets a little disrupted by the NBA trade deadline and stuff like that, but like you got people thinking baseball again, and now you're just kind of people are sitting around, and basketball is going to take up their share, which it kind of does this time of year anyway. But yeah, I feel like you're missing out on that opportunity. But
yeah, I feel like we could do an episode.
I say that like I will watch. Like I'm not like, oh, like I'm not gonna watch. No, I'm gonna watch. Like when it's on, I'll watch.
Yeah,
but I'm ready for it to be on. I'm ready for pitchers and catchers to be down there. I'm ready for all that stuff. But we'll see.
Like because the Flyers have been so inconsistent or poor for the last 10 years, April, May, and June are prime Phillies viewing times for me. Like especially when the Phillies haven't been good. Like even when they're not good, I still watch them April, May, June, leading up to the All-Star break for sure. Now, once the All-Star break comes and goes and the 4th of July is in the rearview mirror, I'm usually like football.
Right.
I'm like, it's time.
Right. Football guys start reporting and all that stuff.
So it's and when the Flyers are good, it's Flyers in the spring. And then, but they're not good. It's tough. They're tough to watch. They're talking about getting rid of Giroux, because it's like, what's the point?
Right.
We're trying to retool.
I hate that, but I'm also like, he deserves so much better than what the Flyers can give.
Well, I saw the talk was about him going to Colorado. Perfect. I love Colorado. Like I have nothing against the Avalanche. They've always were like
I agree.
My number 2 team.
My sister gets to go to games every now and then.
That sounds awesome to me.
Her boss is a huge Colorado Avalanche fan.
Is he?
Yeah.
Well, I always enjoy the ones. I wasn't a Quebec Nordiques fan, but when they moved to Colorado, it was one of those things. It's like the Flyers, they're always good. I needed a team on the other conference, and I hated the Red Wings. So, any team that could beat the Red Wings and prevent them from winning a Stanley Cup, I was all about it. And I always loved that logo they came up with the Avalanche going down the A. It's just cool when growing up when they moved there, and to see some of those guys win it with the Avalanche, like Ray Bourque.
Right.
Like that was a big thing growing up.
And that's like, if they could get...
They could add Giroux to that team.
Right, add Giroux to that team, and if it could work out for Giroux too, he deserves it. Like he's...
Yeah, I mean, what's left for him to prove? Like, he's done all that he can. He was a young superstar, and we weren't able to ever get
Matt
over
Stafford,
that.
man.
Yeah.
It's Matt Stafford.
I mean, he became the guy. Like, he wasn't the guy in that 2010 run. It wasn't supposed to be, but he was breaking out at that 2010 team. And then all of a sudden, they went through that overhaul and made him the face, which was great, but they never could. The pieces around him, most of the time, revolving around goaltending. Like, those early years, Flyers were good, just not good enough. And they can't get out of their own way. They're going to ruin Carter Hart, too, sooner or later. But on to less depressing things. Zach Thomas didn't make the Hall of Fame again.
Not where I thought you were going with the less depressing news.
So we are not going to Canton in August. Maybe the next year. I don't know. We'll see. Although now I'm just having
Maybe we'll go for Kelsey's.
Now I'm having a crisis. As we were just talking about doing a family vacation, and it would be the first weekend in August of 2023. And now I'm like, oh well, that's not great timing.
Book it. Zach Thomas is getting in next year.
That would be how it would work out. Yeah.
But the
vacation wouldn't get me closer to Canton either. Probably it would get me farther away.
So here's the thing. I know that while you would love to be there, if that was the trade-off, if you were if I booked the vacation, if it meant him getting in, you'd pause the show and go book the vacation right now.
I would, yeah.
Right. No, and I understand. That makes sense to me as well.
I really wanted to be there when he gets inducted because he deserves to be inducted. It's absurd to me that he's not getting in. And looking at the class that's going in this year, it makes me even more angry because I just feel like he keeps getting snubbed and overlooked. And when you talk to Hall of Fame offensive linemen that played against him, and they're all like, there's no reason he shouldn't be in. But I don't want to sit here and dwell, and I don't want to belittle the people who got in either, because I'm not saying they're not deserving. It's just my biased view is Zach Thomas was more important or better than the guys, some of them that they're putting in this year.
When Jason Kelsey goes in.
Well, hey, if I don't get to go see Zach Thomas, I would have loved to go see Dawkins. That would have been cool.
I feel like Jason Kelsey, his speech
could be epic.
Who knows what we're gonna get?
Could be epic.
But
well, see, the way I look at it that way is if he gets in next year and that vacation is that same weekend and I don't get to go see him get in a shrine, then whenever we go see an Eagle get in, I'm hoping Zach will return and be part of it. And then I could maybe get his autograph then or say in person. I have Zach Thomas autographs, but I have never. So I'm not the one that has gotten them.
A buddy of mine in college, full disclosure, have not talked to the person since college, but. A friend of mine in college played at Canton McKinley, right, in Canton. And, I think his uncle was maybe the mayor of Canton.
Oh, wow.
So, they would get to all this, VIP stuff, whenever things would come into town. And, I remember this because, the All-Star game had been in Cleveland. The NBA All-Star game was in Cleveland, just like it was this year, and he got to sit courtside for the skills competition and stuff like that. Because
that's awesome.
Of his
That's cool.
Yeah, NBA All-Star game was this weekend in Cleveland, and it just made me think of those things again. But I joke about that, but I look at Zach Thomas and I feel that way about Kelsey. That's how I feel. And you throw the things and it's where the stats and everyone else who has the stats that he has is in. And I send those to you about Kelsey all the time. I think of all the centers that have been 4-time All-Pros.
All-Pro, yeah.
11 of them are in the Hall of Fame, and he's the 12th, and obviously he's still playing or something like that. I don't know the exact one, but I'm just like, oh gosh, don't let this be this situation. But
well,
you know.
it's crazy to me that now this has only rose to the top fairly recently. Like I had always hoped, but knew that Zach Thomas would get snubbed because he never got the headlines that Ray Lewis and Brian Urlacher got. And I never understood it. And I've posted on a variety of online platforms well before we started this podcast even of like the comparison of everything you could possibly do. But he's been retired for 13 years. So I think he has, is it 7 more years? Is it 20 or 30 where they cut you off and put you into the senior pool?
I forget what it is. But then you get into the other one.
And they were talking about, I think it was it Leroy Butler, maybe? Someone who's going in this year. Oh, maybe it was Sam Mills.
Okay.
I think it's, you have 20 years. I guess, is that after your 5-year wait?
I think it's after your 5-year wait.
You have 20, so it's a 25-year wait. 5 of them you can't, I guess so. In case you unretire or whatever, 5 years since you last played, then you're first ballot eligible, and then you have 20 years, and then you get put into the senior group, and they only take one of those a year, I think, or something like that. Yeah. So it's a big backlog, which is why we just saw who was the receiver that got in?
The guy from the Cowboys, right?
Was it
Pearson?
No. That wasn't him. Now I'm drawing a blank of who it was. But they're just talking about if I think it was Sam Mills, gets pushed into the senior committee, there's so many linebackers in there that it was going to take forever for him to get. There's so many others waiting that he was going to just kind of be lost in purgatory. I thought you meant that there were so
many that are on that committee that
that there's so many in the pool of players that are eligible.
Well, you think about it, and this is honestly one of those things that I hadn't really thought of until right now, but think about it. Like, for a long time, I believe there were a lot of teams that played with, 3 linebackers. Some played with 2 for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, think about, the timing. When, you go back 20 years, a lot of teams started going to 4 linebackers. And that became a dominant style defense for a long time.
Yeah, early 2000s.
So, you honestly, in a matter of a generation of football players, you doubled the amount of linebackers that were on each team, essentially. I know it's not that simple. It's not that cut dry. Not every team played 3-4. But, I just think about some of those teams and some of the really good teams, which corresponds with, I think about the Patriots. How often were they running 3-4 guys, back in those 2000s teams? And, you got 4 guys back there and winning multiple Super Bowls. And,
one of the trainees was Richard Seymour, right?
Right.
Part of the Patriots in the 2000s. So, it's disappointing. I thinking about it, we had talked about it. We had even looked into what was happening in the Canton the metro area around Canton, Ohio. What could we do that weekend if we got to go out this year? And we looked it up, and the Cleveland Guardians were at home against the Houston Astros, so we could go year under the new name, playing a team that everyone hates.
All the trash can paraphernalia from my Amazon wish list thing. So
it was just like, hey, how cool would it be to go to the game Thursday night, watch the whatever kickoff game is, go to the Cleveland baseball game on Friday, and then the enshrinement on Saturday. You would get to see Joe, who you probably haven't seen in a few years.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a few years.
So we had this whole thing planned, and then the committee just
might be his wedding.
Messed it up.
I may not have seen him since his wedding.
Well, I mean, to be honest, it probably is better for the sandwich shop that I'm not going because, I was hoping that my dad was going to go out with us, but my sister's already on vacation that week. So if I was also leaving, that would have been a mess. So it's better that that's not happening.
How angry would you have been if your sister went to Canton to watch enjoyment? Just sending you pictures.
But speaking of the sandwich shop, so I don't shove this at the end.
No, absolutely.
I want to thank because I know some of the people watch or listen to this live. Just want to thank everyone that came out to support May's Sandwich Shop at our 75th anniversary celebration event yesterday. We had a huge, overwhelming response. It helps when you're selling sandwiches for 75 cents to get people excited.
Yeah, that's a draw.
But we ended up selling nearly 1,500 sandwiches, which was a few hundred more than we had planned. We went through all of our stock for rolls tomorrow, so my dad's got to run in first thing tomorrow to get more rolls from ATV Bakery
Right,
in Reading.
when we were discussing the rundown of the day, you sent it, and I'm like, awesome? Question mark. I'm like, it is. Like, the event went awesome, but I'm just like, oh gosh, like, because
Kelly will text me throughout the day, like, how's your day going? I'm just like, we're super busy. She's like, good? Like, that's good, right? I'm like, yeah, it's good to be busy, but like, if there's other work that has to be done, it's
right.
It's tough when you're focused just on that aspect of the business. But yeah.
But yeah, it was. I'm telling you, my son told me best sandwich, and he also got a Wilson football shirt from.
He got the Doug Knows Football. I think that's.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
So yeah, it was a good time. Saw a lot of familiar faces. A few people that have been on this show. Obviously, my entire family or extended family and the incredibly close friends of the family, all there to help out and volunteer their time, and appreciate that. And longtime supporter, my Uncle Rich, who he celebrated a birthday and is very much tied to the creation of the sandwich shop, which he likes to let everyone know about.
That picture of him in the office was.
It wasn't
perfect.
that was perfect.
It was perfect.
Yeah, Corinne took the picture, and like as soon as she showed it to me, I was like, I have a picture of pop up in almost like the exact same spot,
which is great because a few months ago, you posted a picture of your dad wearing a hat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I love it. And I'm like, I'm not saying that like I like to give your dad a hard time. I'm not saying that to give him a hard time. Like I loved the hat. And I'm like, but it reminded me.
Yeah.
Not that I was like, oh, he looks like that's not what I meant. I'm just like it reminded me of when I'd walk in the shop and see your grandfather.
It reminds you of a 90-year-old great grandfather, right? That's what you're saying.
Your words, not mine. Your words, not mine. You can deal with that tomorrow.
So yeah, I don't even know that that Uncle Rich is able to listen live tonight because
I saw his like fly in,
fly out. He was on a flight back to his locale for the time being. So we appreciate. I can't say every name because if I would forget someone, I would feel awful. So I'm just gonna say thank you to the entire May's family, extended family, and our employees and the friends and volunteers that helped out, and everyone that made it possible. And thank you to my parents and my sister for all of us getting everything together and making it work out.
It was awesome.
It was crazy. I know people were like, "You do this like in 5 years, 10 years." I'm like, I don't think in like 25 years. Like I don't know that we were gonna do this every time a relatively big anniversary came up. We did it 10 years ago for 65, right. And that was just kind of like I had only been back working full time for my dad. Corinne wasn't even working full time at that time. She wasn't there like she is now and has been now. It's pretty close to that, but we just were like, hey, let's do something fun. It's our 65th year. Right. And I think it was my dad's idea. It was like, we could sell the sandwiches for 65 cents, like a throwback to when they cost.
I'm glad it was your dad's idea. Because if it was your idea, you probably still wouldn't have heard the end of it.
And, it was a crazy day that day. But we've just done so many different things over the last 10 years that we figured this would be a little crazier. And then WFMZ did their thing 3 weeks ago, and we got a huge response from that. And yeah, it was crazy. It was fun. It was great to see everyone. But yeah, I definitely wanted to mention that. So
yeah, it was awesome.
And
cheers to another 75.
Yeah, hey, here we go. Another 75 years. He said 25 years from now, you'll still see some familiar faces. The generation above us might be in wheelchairs, and we might be pushing them up the side ramps. And I don't know how much sandwich making they can do. But in that point in time, maybe members of this fourth gen that is coming up and runs the gamut of, I think, 3 or 4 up to almost 16 now.
That's crazy.
It could be their time to shine or getting to that point. So we'll see. But yeah, it was a good time. So thank you to everyone that came out, and thank you to everyone that made the day special. Last thing to mention before we finally get to the main topic with 5 minutes left in the show is Penn State Dance Marathon back in person in the Bryce Jordan Center today. We've been reminiscing recently because it's 15 years since mine and Kelly's senior year when I was a rules and regulations captain. It was the first event at the Bryce Jordan Center. And Kelly just talked about today, 16 years ago now is when she danced in Thon. And she danced in the last one at Rec Hall that was 48 hours long.
That's cool.
And I was a captain in the first one at the BJC that was 46 hours long. So we were in that like hybrid, like transition phase.
Do you know which one Adam did?
It was the one before Kelly. He was 05.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of fond memories. And we talk about it every year.
I can't wrap my head around that. Like staying up that long. Like I can't. I feel like college me would have been like, yeah, I can do it. I feel we had this conversation about the Olympics. Like, oh, I could do that. No, I can't.
No,
No, I can't. Like, I don't know that I could do it. And now, I almost feel like I know I couldn't.
I know that won't be happening. No, Kelly talks every year that Thon comes up in conversation around this time, or even if it's just at some other point too. Then you mentioned it. Kelly's like, I can't believe that like I did that, and she talks about how hard it was at times, because it's insane how difficult it is to think about that. You're not sleeping or sitting.
Not sleeping
for 2 days.
Right, for 2 days is crazy.
And really, it's
and
longer
that would
than
assume that you're waking up like as it starts, which you're not.
That's what I mean. Like,
right.
Like they can say, oh, make sure you know, talk to your professors, like see if you can like sleep. No one's doing that. So you're essentially getting up probably between anywhere from 7 to 10 a.m. on the Friday, and you're not going to sleep until
Sunday
I
evening.
mean, Kelly's ended at 7 p.m. The 48-hour at 7 p.m. So until you got home and could go to sleep, you know, you probably might have wanted the shower, although you might have been too exhausted.
You might have needed to eat. But
so you're up from, just to make it easy math-wise, 8 a.m. Friday to 8 p.m. Sunday.
Yeah, you're really talking like almost like 64 hours.
Yeah, like it's a long time. Yeah, and Kelly did it, so she will. But that'll always be something that she remembers.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I was given the opportunity to put my name into the hat to do it with the club that I was in, but I was always much more interested in the logistics and the organization part, and I don't think that I could have done it. And I didn't. If I didn't think I could make it, I didn't want to try, because I didn't want to be someone that couldn't.
Right.
Get
I don't
through
want to
it.
take this.
Or I didn't want to be a medical emergency. You know, I didn't want to be that. So let me work behind the scenes.
I fully understand the thoughts behind that. Yeah, like this is just semi-related. I saw a friend of ours, and who was also one of the advisors for Wilson's Mini-Thon. He got to go up this year. The two co-advisors got to go up as part of
That's awesome.
Like the Mini-Thon like appreciation part of the program, and yeah, they got to be up there, and it's kind of just like an energy boost for them. Wilson's Mini-Thon is this coming weekend.
Say it's coming up, yeah.
So like it's really cool. It is cool, like at high school, to see the kids. And what's cool is I get to see a bunch of them then that go. There's a lot of kids that go to Penn State each year, and a number of them are then also become very involved in Thon, and it's just cool to see. One of my former students was a dancer this year. I also coached her in water polo and stuff, so like it was cool to see her like get to do it. Yeah, it's an incredible organization. Penn State doesn't make basketball college game day too often, but they cut into a live feed of
Yes, they did.
Thon yesterday morning, which is cool, you know. And they said shout out to Reese Davis, like he's got, you know.
Yep.
But it's just
I'm sure Chris Fowler over the years has helped push that along. So
it's such a cool. It's such an important and awesome thing, and it's cool to see everyone like come together to promote it. You know, like you've seen different celebrities over the years. Well, like Nick Scott and his wife were there, like or his girlfriend,
Super Bowl champion.
Like that's incredible. Pat Fryermuth was there, or, you know, like it. see those guys come back. I saw like there was an article like Nick Singleton and some of the early enrollees made their appearance at the pep rally portion, or maybe not the pep rally, but like the part where the football team and like a bunch of the host organizations, kind of like that, take some of the kids around and show them some of the stuff. Like we're all there. Like it's just such a cool thing, and so much of the university comes together to make it what it is. It's awesome.
So this year's Thon was able to raise $13 million, actually closer to $14 million, and they fundraised more than $3 million more this year than last year.
Well, and think like Canning doesn't exist.
Canning doesn't exist anymore,
right?
Which is crazy to think about because the amount of money that came in from Canning was substantial, and now that's completely gone. So
well, right. And I remember when that happened, and I understand there's a lot that goes into the decisions. It's not just like just flipping decisions, but there's a lot that goes into those decisions. But I remember like people like, all right, well they're going to take a hit, and it'll never be back where they set a record. And that's awesome,
that's the thing. I just saw a post I posted this like 7 or 8 years ago, and it was reflecting back on like 05, 06, 07, like when I was a student and going to Thon. And I remember 05, it was in the 5 million range. And here, we're 17 years later, and it's in 13 million. And there was exponential growth from, I want to say like 06 through like 2012 or something like that. Like it just the magnitude that it took off was insane, and to see it here and setting a new record is even better because it's all going to the Penn State Hershey, the Four Diamonds Thon at the Penn State Hershey Medical Center. So just wanted to give a shout out to that because it meant so much over the years, and it's such an important cause, and it's part of Penn State, which Justin and I never get tired of talking about. So if it has one huge good thing from, you're okay if I show this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So really the last thing here, I want to pull this up before we really quickly talk about the Super Bowl, the main topic of the show.
I made a Matthew Stafford reference earlier.
Here's the picture of my dad with Austin. He showed me with pride his Joe Burrow, Bengals Super Bowl. Now, where did you get that? Is that a local buy or did you get it online?
We bought it online.
You got it online. I didn't know if we ordered Dick's Sporting Goods had it or something like that.
So I checked, man. There's not a lot of. First of all, you can't get like Joe Burrow stuff anywhere. We ordered this literally like the kick goes through the uprights and we're ordering it
on NFL Shop.
As he's running around screaming, excited, and I'm like, I was disappointed the Chiefs lost, but like I was happy.
Happy for him.
I was happy for him.
Yeah.
And like I said, like he was in on the Bengals before, so.
Right. This wasn't a new thing.
This is not like, oh, they're going to the Super Bowl. I like them. He liked them, and they happen to be terrible. He liked them because they're Tigers. But, like, he's all in. He likes Joe Burrow. He likes Jamar Chase, all that stuff. So, like, okay, bud, you're in when you bought low, and now you get to, like, celebrate. All right, I'm okay with that. So we go on and we buy it. But, like, it doesn't even, like, it processes your order, but they have no idea. It doesn't